Okay, well, let's get started since we only have 30 minutes. Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I'm Julie Chabdi, the Associate Director of Health and Wellbeing Program with the WorkWell Center and your host for today. Throughout today's session, you're welcome to use the chat. We'll have some interactive questions, so I encourage you to participate in the chat, ask questions, make comments, and we'll have some time at the end for a live Q&A, along with asking you to fill out an evaluation form for a raffle prize. So please make sure you're muted to minimize any background noise. And with that, I will turn it over to our Eat Well co-lead, one of our co-leads, Professor Carrie Kreutzer with the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology and Keck School of Medicine. And I also like to recognize Lindsay Pine, our other co-lead dining dietitian with USC Hospitality. Carrie?
Yeah, thank you so much, Julie. On behalf of our USC Healthy Campus initiative, the Eat Well subcommittee that Lindsay and I co-chair together, we're really excited to introduce you to this Eat Well Bites series, which is a monthly series that we're kicking off. This is our first event, and it will be the first Thursday of every month this fall. And the goal of our series is to provide some practical hands-on tools, demonstrations, resources, and supports to USC faculty as well as staff. And our focus is on ways to improve your health and quality of life through nutrition. And over the next 30 minutes, we're going to share our expertise. Our speaker will share around this very important topic, and would like to also engage you in conversation as we move through. I also would like to, if you can go to the next slide, would like to thank the members of the Eat Well subcommittee. They're listed here. This group has been working hard to look at what are the needs that we ought to be addressing here at USC. And we have lots of things in the pipeline that Lindsay and I and the committee are working on. So thank you so much. And I will turn it back to you, Julie.
Great. And just a brief reminder, as we always do, we invite you to stand, stretch, move in any manner it feels best during today's webinar. So feel free to do that anytime during today's session. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our speaker today, Holly Wells, bariatric dietitian with the Keck School of Medicine, Department of Surgery. Welcome, Holly, and thank you for being here today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to my presentation. We're going to be covering a topic of healthy snacking. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. You can switch the slide. All right, so a little bit about the objectives, some things that I'd like you to learn from this presentation today. So under the umbrella of healthy snacking, what is healthy snacking? My goal is for you to understand the importance of incorporating snacks throughout your day, determining which would be more appropriate times to have your snacks, and learning how to choose more nutritious snacks. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So why do we snack? Snacking can look a bunch of different ways, and we could be snacking due to different reasons. One of the first things you may think of in terms of snacking is snacking because you're hungry. So maybe if you had a smaller meal or distance in between meals, you could snack because of hunger. Social environments can be a situation in which we snack too. If you're having a party, a work event, hanging out with friends, these are situations where you might be snacking, maybe not necessarily related to hunger. Another situation where you might be snacking not due to hunger is with cultural or family traditions. So in my culture, being Filipino, merienda is an important part of the day, especially when we're gathering with family. In this situation, we could be having snacks, maybe not due to hunger, but more so due to cultural tradition. We could also snack purely because we enjoy it. Food tastes good. We want to enjoy it more often. We might be snacking not because of hunger in this situation. Food can make us feel different ways too. It could provide more than just calories to keep us alive. So a little bit of audience participation. What is a snack that you loved as a child? An example that brings fond memories for me is my grandma picking me up after school with a thermos of Dino chicken nuggets and rice, and that brings back good memories for me. I see in the chat box we have Oreos. That's a tasty snack. Frozen grape. Oh, wow. All right. You have great participation. Going fast enough, I can't catch everything. A variety of different foods. We can see from this chat box, some of the foods may be what we consider more nutritious snacks. Some of them may be less nutritious, but different kinds of snacks, chocolates and cookies, cakes and pastries. Thank you for participating, everyone. These are really tasty sounding snacks. All right, let's go ahead and move on. So there are some benefits of snacking, and in this situation, the key word is mindful snacking. Snacks that are strategic and mindful can help keep us focused on work rather than hunger. We want to generally avoid the growling stomach that can distract us from tasks at hand, meetings. Snacking can also help you or keep you from overeating at meals. So if you enter a meal in a maybe kind of hangry or hungry, angry state, you tend to eat a little bit more than you expected because you're going into it with a ravenous hunger. If we have a snack before, that could be a good way to calm our hunger a little bit and approach it with a more mindful demeanor. Snacking can also help you or help keep you from making more poor food choices or maybe less nutritious food choices. Again, bringing back that kind of slang term of being hangry or hungry, angry. When you enter a meal, and if you're in a hangry state, you tend to reach for whatever is going to be available first. You might not take the time to sit down and put together a more nutritious option. So rather than reaching for convenience foods, having a snack gives us a little bit more time to make more mindful decisions. So with these things in mind, is there a time of day that you usually have a snack, or when do you find yourself having your snack of the day or snacking more often? Morning, evening, between lunch and dinner, 3 all day long? Okay, so there are many different appropriate times to have a snack, especially because all of our schedules can vary. We don't all operate on the same schedule with family and work. So an appropriate time for snacking can really differ based on your goals and your day to day. All right, thanks for the participation. Go ahead to the next slide. So I have some examples of when would be more optimal times to snack. Again, like I mentioned earlier, the best time to snack can really vary person to person, but maybe something in the mid-morning. If you had a small breakfast or you expect to have a smaller late lunch, maybe you know you have extra work or a meeting. Before leaving for work. So if you ever notice yourself snacking while preparing dinner, maybe snacking on lower nutritious foods, having a scheduled snack before leaving work can be a great way to calm your hunger a little bit and give you more time to prepare dinner. I've definitely been in situations where I filled up on chips before getting to dinner and then I'm not actually hungry for my dinner. So having a snack before work can help navigate this better. In the evening, did you have an early dinner? Are you having a late night? Do you have school or activities? In this case, you might want to have a snack in the evening, especially if there's a big gap between your dinner and your bedtime. And then anytime in between, I've seen some responses people who said intermittently throughout the day. Maybe you're having a long meeting and you're in a seminar, plane ride or road trip where you know you're going to be going multiple hours without food. That could be a great time to introduce a snack. Okay. So we have this word again, mindful, and we're going to be covering that in another topic, in a separate Eat Well Bite series. But mindful snacking versus munching. So thinking back to one of the first slides where I talked about snacking that could be done in situations where you're not hungry, we want to limit that in most situations. So paying attention to when you're snacking is the best way to ensure that you're focusing on nutrition and limiting snacking when you're not hungry. So It's best to avoid snacking in the following situations: immediately before or after a meal. In these situations, you're not likely to be hungry. If you are hungry and a meal's coming up, if you can hold out a little bit and wait for that meal, that would be a better strategy. We also want to avoid snacking while multitasking, doing things like watching TV, attending a meeting, maybe driving. In these situations, it's a little bit harder to pay attention to what you're eating, and you might make less mindful decisions. So overall, be mindful of how much you're eating and stop when you're satisfied or satiated. So sometimes people use the word full, but I like to use the word satiated because it's usually best to stop eating before you really get to that full point. All right, you can go to next slide. In addition to snacking for hunger, enjoyment, other things, we can make the snack work for you. So snacks can be a great opportunity to include more nutrition into your day, whether it be vitamins, minerals, protein, fiber. So I know my doctor has told me to make sure that I get some more iron and vitamin D. What are some vitamins, minerals, different kinds of foods that maybe a healthcare provider has told you that you need to or you should increase your intake of? Vitamin D, omega-3, that's a great one. More protein, definitely. Vitamin D is a really common one. Excellent. Calcium, magnesium, yeah, definitely. So snacks can be a great opportunity to increase our nutrient intake. In some situations, supplements can be appropriate too, but might as well make the snack work for us. So I included some common vitamins, minerals, and we have fiber here too, not a vitamin or mineral, but still important. And looking at these options for calcium, we have our yogurt. That's usually a good source of vitamin D. Potassium, we have the good old banana. Iron, usually beef jerky can be a good source of that. And then fiber, jumping to these first two pictures, maybe some dried fruit, or these are edamame, veggies. This is a great way to snack, not just for hunger, but to improve your nutrition. All right, you can go to next slide. When we're choosing a snack, we can be strategic about it and incorporate a variety of different foods to maximize our satiety. So, in other words, fullness and satisfaction. I'm getting a little bit hungry too. I did have a snack before this presentation. So I prepared for that because I knew I was going to be on here for a little while. So there are three main categories that you want to look at when choosing a snack. You can choose a snack with two or more of these. That would really maximize your satisfaction and satiety. We have protein, a couple different options here. I know I didn't, looking back, I didn't include vegan protein options, but we do have some vegan yogurts. If that's a diet that you'd like to follow, we have eggs, cottage cheese, maybe some grilled chicken. Yeah, there's a lot of great different options. Someone said that the Good Culture cottage cheese is the best. There's a lot of great products out there. Fiber in the middle, we have our fruits and vegetables, pretty well known for having fiber. We also have legumes like hummus or bean dip. And then our heart healthy fats down at the end, nuts, nut butter, seeds, avocados. So when we're choosing a snack, it would be great to pick something that, from one or more of these categories. All right, and then if we go to the next slide, I have some samples or examples of snack combinations, just a couple here for you. We have a chia seed pudding. So we have our heart healthy fats from the chia seeds. They also have a little bit of fiber and protein. So this is kind of a combo within itself. Pair it with some milk, could be a plant-based milk or a regular cow's milk for some protein. In the middle, we have our peanut butter cracker sandwiches, a little bit of fiber from the whole grain crackers, a little bit of heart healthy fats and protein from the peanut butter. And at the end, we have a cucumber turkey roll-up just wrap in some turkey around some cucumber sticks. You can easily swap out other vegetables, celery, carrots. We get our fiber from the veggies and some protein from the turkey. I love the participation cucumber with the low sodium tahini and lime. That sounds delicious. Great way to add extra flavor with minimal calories. Takis and sour cream, we would have a little, that would be a little bit lacking in the protein and fiber, but maybe if we dipped it in a plain Greek yogurt mixed with some ranch powder, that could be a good way to incorporate some calcium and some protein. Wow, so many great ideas, everyone. So this is just the beginning. You could take a look at that previous slide if you'd like and pick a different combination of those ingredients to make a better snack combo. Okay, everyone's been answering what's your favorite snack combination, so that looks good. So talking about these beverages now. So in terms of beverages, we might not always think of them as a snack, but if they are filling us up or we're having it in between meals, they could be counting as a snack. There's two main things I want you to focus on in terms of beverages. So we have caffeine and added sugar. There are other things to consider, but we'll focus on these two today. In terms of caffeine, for most people, we want to aim for less than 400 milligrams, probably even less than that, but we'll stick with that number. For those who have high blood pressure or pregnant, we would recommend speaking with your physician on a more specific recommendation, but it's probably going to be less than that. I have some common beverages here and the average amount of caffeine they contain. So it's good to be aware of what your food has or what it contains. And we're actually going to be covering food label reading in a future Eat Well Bite series. So they're going to dive more into how to determine what exactly is in your food. So just a little bit on caffeine. Added sugar, usually less is better. We want to aim for less than 10%. You don't really have to calculate the calories every time. What I would recommend is picking up a couple different products and trying to pick the one that's lower in sugar. So a couple different options here. Keep in mind that the sugar does provide calories, which can be a way to keep you full. So if you're pairing one of these beverages with a solid snack, you might find yourself maybe a little too full, or that would maybe be crossing into a meal size territory in terms of intake. Okay. Where are we getting our snacks? Maybe bringing them from home, maybe grabbing them in the cafe, maybe grabbing them from the vending machine. So like I mentioned earlier, reading food labels is probably is the best way to determine what's in your food, but we're going to cover that in a future series. So I want to focus more on keywords. So keywords to look out for when you're looking at your products in the vending machine. Baked. Baked is often going to be lower in fat, which is usually better for heart health. You know, we can get into the heart healthy fats. That's a little bit more in depth than I want to cover today. Generally, lower fat is better. In terms of protein and fiber, these are two things that you want to look at. More likely going to be found on the nutrition facts label. So flip that package over, look at the back. Serving size is really key. For most of us, we would assume that these smaller bags are one serving size. That's not always the case. That doesn't mean you can't eat the whole bag, you know, depending on your hunger and what you're aiming for. You might feel that the whole bag is appropriate. But in that case, if you want to know how much fat, you know, carbohydrates, calories you're having, you might need to add or subtract, or in this case, divide or multiply based on how many serving sizes. And then going back to sugar, in terms of sugar, less is usually better. This is a little bit harder to see without pulling the product out. So I like to use my phone to look up the nutrition facts, and then that could help me make a better decision in terms of picking foods that are lower in sugar. All right, so we can go ahead to the next slide. So leaving you today with a couple more snack ideas. So here is what I've seen. I can't take credit for this. I found this on a different site, but a Snackle box. So if anyone is familiar with fishing, we have our tackle box where you can put all your fishing doodads, as You could probably tell I'm not really a fisherwoman. But little spaces for food. So if you're familiar with a bento box, that could be another way to organize your snacks or make it just a little bit more fun. We are including as example, a PDF for you to take home with you, print it out, save it on your phone. It's in the chat. Within our Snackle box, we want to hit those different nutrient categories: protein, maybe a boiled egg, deli meat or beans, veggies, lots of different options here. We have cucumber, carrots, fruit. We could do fresh or dried. That applies for the protein and veggies too. Maybe throw in a whole grain for some fiber, and then some heart healthy fats to get a nice balanced meal. If you're putting in perishable items, you might want to pop it in the fridge. You can go for dried if you want to take it on the go, camping, hiking. And then keep in mind too with the serving size, you may not want to finish the entire Snackle box in one sitting, depending on the size. So this is just to get you started. And I would love to see if anyone has any ideas on what they've liked or what they've done before. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my set slides. Really like to open up the chat or to any questions or comments about snacks that you've enjoyed, or if there's any clarifications I can make for anyone.
Holly, there's a couple of questions that I caught in the chat.
Yes,
so
thank
one is
you.
about, yeah, I love the engagement. I was scrolling through to get questions. I know Carrie's been answering some of them and people are chiming in, but deli meats, can you talk about deli meats and the sodium content? Do they tend to have too much sodium? What should we look at?
Yeah, that's a great point. So for deli meats, one of the ways that we can help make them more shelf stable is by adding sodium. There's other purposes too. So if sodium is something that you want to limit, what I would recommend is looking for a lower, something that's labeled as a low sodium option. Or one of my favorite things to do is just to pick up a couple different packages and compare the sodium content. Pick one that's going to be lower if that's something you're looking for.
Couple of questions about caffeine. It might vary, but there was a question around how much caffeine is in an 8-ounce coffee, and then also a 12-ounce coffee that's black and unsweetened. Are you able to tell us around how much caffeine, or does that
Right.
vary?
It does vary. They usually go around 90 to 100 milligrams, I would say, for about an 8-ounce coffee. There are variances in the roast. The blonde roasts actually tend to be a little bit higher in caffeine. So if that's something that you're considering, you can look at the nutrition facts label. That can give you a better idea.
Holly, I posted a link to caffeineinformer.com, and it gives
Perfect.
the complete data for Starbucks based on size and the blonde roast, the medium roast. So you're right on target. A short Pike's Place brewed coffee is 155 milligrams, but if you get the venti, you're up to 410. So
excellent. Thank you, Carrie, for that. Yeah, there's a lot of different beverage products out there. So resources online are a great way to get a better idea of what you're having. Thank you.
And question, I was thinking the exact same thing as Carla's question. Can a snack or snacks ever become a meal? Sometimes we don't have time to make a whole meal. Can we just snack throughout the day? What are your thoughts on that?
So snacking throughout the day, I usually don't encourage that for the average person because it doesn't really give your body time to get hungry and then get kind of full. So you don't want to get to the point where you're starving, but also we want our body to be able to recognize these hunger and fullness cues. In terms of a snack becoming a meal, I think a meal can really consist of whatever you would like. And with the snacks that we were talking about today, ones that contain fiber, protein, fat, and I would consider that a meal. So yeah, you could definitely merge a snack or increase the portion size to be more of a meal or adjust it based on how your hunger is at the time.
Great. Now this question, if you have to decide on food with higher sodium and higher fat, which would you choose? Which one would you choose, the higher fat or the higher sodium? What's worse for you?
Right, great question. So nutrition can really vary based on your own goals and your nutrition needs. So it's a little tricky to answer that. It would be a great opportunity to speak with your physician, or maybe if you have a registered dietitian available. If I could do a quick answer, I would say maybe avoiding the higher fat would probably be what I would look for first. Um, there's a lot of research established about higher fat foods and negative impacts on health. Same with sodium, but I think a fat would probably take the first place in my mind.
How can you incorporate snacking with alternate fasting?
So by alternate fasting, um, in the realm of fasting diets, they can really vary a lot. And I'm making an assumption that's what you're talking about. So it would depend on your eating window. Um, most people that, or most situations of intermittent fasting that I find, people tend to eat during the day and then fast overnight. So snacking shouldn't really affect your eating window. In that situation, I would just try to go for more nutritious snacks, especially if you're limiting your intake. We want to make sure that you're still able to hit your proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals. So picking higher nutrition snacks could be a great option for you.
This person commutes and doesn't get home until 8 p.m. and really doesn't want to eat that late. Do you
Mhm.
recommend that they have a snack during the commute to replace dinner? Because their lunch is at 12, and so they're hungry by the time they get home.
Yes, that's a great question. And living in LA, a lot of us have long commutes. So I know I mentioned earlier it's best to avoid snacking while driving, but in some situations that's difficult. Maybe that's a window of opportunity for you to include more nutrition. Just be safe while you do it. Maybe something like a high protein shake or a smoothie with some protein in it. We want to hit protein, fiber, and fat as much as we can since it's going to be your meal replacement. So something that's a little bit easier to sip on while you drive can be a great way to make sure you're not skipping your dinner. If you could fit in a little bit before you leave work too, that could be a good option.
And two more quick questions before we wrap up. One is, if you stay within the recommendation for caffeine, is it really terrible to drink Diet Coke?
So with this question, I'm assuming that you're talking about the artificial sweeteners in Diet Coke. Um, with artificial sweeteners, it can be a great opportunity for people who have medical conditions involving blood sugar control, enjoy foods that have that sweet flavor. Overall, we want to limit both added sugar and artificial sweeteners. So we're looking at more excess. If you're having a little bit here and there, it should be fine for most people. Worse, so I wouldn't say it's necessarily worse. We mainly want to look at how much you're having. And at the end of the day, water is probably the best option.
If dinner is early, is late night snacking okay? Like, how late should you go for snacking?
Right. So in most situations, at what time you eat shouldn't really affect it. It shouldn't matter too much. It's more about the choices that you're making. Most people aren't putting together a quinoa salad with broccoli at midnight, or most probably grabbing for the bag of chips because that's easier. So if you're having an early dinner and you're planning on staying up late, I think a snack in the evening is totally appropriate. We just want to make sure we're making mindful decisions and picking higher nutrition foods.
And we'll do one more.
Sure.
If for those who have high cholesterol, how many hard-boiled eggs should one consume in one day?
So with high cholesterol, we also want to look at the fat content. So within the hard-boiled eggs, we're looking at the yolk. It does provide some great nutrition, vitamins, and minerals, but that is where the fat lies. Generally, 1 to 2 eggs a day should be good. I would ask what else you're pairing with your breakfast. So if you feel like you're having too many eggs, maybe we need to add a little bit of whole wheat toast or a little bit of like sauteed spinach in your omelet, so that we're not focusing so much on how many eggs can we eat, but having that egg and then pairing these other foods with it.
Great. Thank you so much, Holly. I know we can go on and on. Thank you everyone for participating. We have 3 more sessions for the rest of this year, as you can see on the slides. and register, join us. They are monthly. And before we end, I'd like to just thank everyone for being here today. And please fill out our survey. It's really important that we get feedback from all of you. And we are going to pick one lucky raffle winner to receive a gift card from Trader Joe's. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Carla is going to spin the wheel and select one lucky raffle winner. And we'll be in touch with you to deliver the gift card.
Julie, that is such a cute idea.
Jennifer Alvarado, congratulations. So thank you everyone for being here today and joining our Healthy Campus Eat Well Bites. We'll see you all next month.
Thank you.
Eat healthy.